Hi everybody, this is the final reflection for Melanie Warren. Before I get started, I just wanted to say that I do greatly appreciate all of the skills, apps, technology tools that we've learned about in this class because um, I teach some courses, and one of the classes that I teach is academic study skills, and oftentimes the material is a little bit dry and boring, and it's nice to know some skills moving forward that I could implement into my class to make it a little bit more engaging for the students. Um, so the research question that I have is basically in a time where learning scientists are constantly looking for new strategies in regards to technology and education, whether it be applications or ways to display information or whatever the case is, how do educators assist college students, specifically those with ADHD, stay focused in their classroom in the age of digital distraction? So a little bit of background to this. As I mentioned previously, I work with student athletes across all sports here at UB as a learning specialist. And basically, I see firsthand how distracted they are by their phones, whether it's social media or email, and by their iPads and computers and laptops and things like that. But when they're in study hall, they obviously should be there focused and getting their work done. And I can only imagine that these same distractions are occurring in the classroom as well. So in and out of the classroom, students are often distracted by all of the tasks that they must complete in a day. They rely on multitasking, which quite honestly probably doesn't produce the best quality work. I know I'm guilty of that I might have 10 things on my to-do list and I am doing a little bit of each one rather than sitting down, getting the first one completed and moving on to the second. Beyond multitasking, they're constantly connected to social media. They're very easily distracted by the notification that comes through for Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter, whatever the case is. And I think that all these distractions can often lead to less productivity. So in my opinion, educators are not the only ones responsible for students' learning, since students are at the center of their educational experience. But I think as educators, it's our responsibility to try to make sure that we're engaging all the students in our classroom and allowing for an opportunity to use some of these tools, but not in a way that's going to create more distractions. So again, students and educators need to find a balance between the digital tools that can help them learn while minimizing distractions in the classroom. So what would I like to know? The first thing is kind of similar to how we learned through this class is how do post-secondary educators integrate technology in their classroom, and how do they monitor that students remain focused while implementing the technology in the classroom? So where this kind of came from is I did my undergrad here at UB, so I understand the challenges of being in such a large lecture hall for some of your classes. So how can professors integrate technology in such a large class where it's not causing distractions, but it's encouraging the learning? Is it better to allow for multiple means of assessment through out-of-class assignments rather than in-class assignments? Again, kind of going back to the first question, is it easier to create assignments and tasks, much like this class, outside of the classroom so students can learn about the technology or the app and then show that they've learned about it rather than trying to implement it in a classroom where the learning curve is different and all that stuff, and outside of the classroom students can spend as much time as they need to learning the tool. And finally, just because I'm really interested in this area, how can learning scientists and educators integrate universal design for learning strategies to help all students, but specifically those with ADHD? So not only is technology a distraction for all students, but one can only imagine that students with ADHD or various learning disabilities have a bigger challenge in staying focused in and out of the classroom. So why is it important? Educators have to be able to quickly adapt in the age of distractions. From what my experience teaching is you can go in with the greatest lesson plan that integrates technology or doesn't, and you need to meet the class where they're at because either they're not responsive to what you're trying to teach them or the learning curve is much greater than you originally anticipated. So you always have to be on your toes. The students in today's classroom are so focused on technology that their brains often are not stimulated by traditional classroom activities. So it is known and needed to be implementing technology in the classroom, but I think that we have to make sure, again, that we're doing it in a way that is productive and minimizing and not encouraging distractions. Who will it benefit? Obviously, I think it benefits educators because it gets them to meet the students of their classroom and allows them to challenge themselves in a sense of creating new and interesting ways to display their information. It can benefit all students, and then because of my research questions, I think that it could benefit students with ADHD. So some of the connections that I think that my research question makes to this course, creating multiple means of representation and assessment are two staples of universal design for learning. We did a lot with multimodal strategies and remediation, and those are two areas that I feel like I could really use in my class moving forward about academic study strategies, because it will allow the students to, learn the basics of, let's say, note-taking in the classroom, but then go outside of the classroom and maybe look at some different apps and note-taking strategies, and then present the information back to me or back to their classmates. Secondly, professors having the flexibility to display course information and create assignments that will increase student engagement. I think this is really where education is going, and like I said before, you kind of have to be on your toes and meeting students where they are. And traditional lecture style just doesn't work for everybody, and creating multiple ways that students can intake information and output it is going to be really helpful. And then lastly, creating opportunities through assessment where students can interact with each other and provide peer feedback. I think a lot of what we did in this class was being able to, all of us had probably different learning curves as far as the different tools and strategies that we were asked to use, but being able to provide that peer feedback with, obviously Dr. Risch, you're probably an expert in most of these things, but for a lot of us we weren't, so I think it was helpful to get the encouragement or different strategies from our peers as well as you. But like I said, to start this off, I appreciated the strategies and tools that we learned in the class, and I look forward to trying to integrate them into the class that I'm teaching in the spring. So thank you for a great semester.